63, then tonight cloudy with a low of 65. Farmer's Kitchen and Bar connects the local harvest directly to downtown Minneapolis. They prioritize sourcing as many ingredients as possible from local farmers. Check them out on South 2nd Street next to the Guthrie Theater, open Wednesday through Sunday. Visit farmerskitchenandbar.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hi, this is Laura with Food Freedom Radio, broadcasting live from the Twin Cities Pride Festival. And we thank our sponsors, Planned Parenthood, Violet Wines and Spirits, and Amy Ruzek's No Place Like Home. I also love to thank Food Freedom Radio sponsors, Farmers Bar and Kitchen. And if you haven't been there, go down there. It's right next to the Guthrie. The restaurant, the food is from farmers, local farmers. All the food is from local farmers. Isn't that awesome? That's Farmers Bar and Kitchen. Also, Mestel's Health Food Store. They're one of the very first health food stores in Minnesota, although also locally owned, and they're the experts. So stop by and chit-chat with them. And also Metro Blooms. Very thrilled to have Metro Blooms because there's so many ways we can. I'm going to go here. I saw a dragonfly butterfly the other day, and it just seemed so sad because I was like, all I could do was see concrete. I almost could just feel it. We can, in our yards, make pollinator-friendly places of a refuge for ourselves and for the more than human world. So thank you for tuning in. And this is Laura with Food Freedom Radio. And I'm a student of nature-led gardening, a person who seeks a world that works for all humans, plus the more than human world. And is this not a little queer? I mean, what is normal in our food system, right? So right now, California farmers, this is the bizarrest thing, I think. California farmers are destroying 420,000 peach trees because a processing plant closed. We know kids don't get enough fruit. We know people are going hungry. And 400,000 peach trees, which could have gifted us food for decades, are being destroyed because of Tina. Now, it's not the nice Tina I met who got a curling iron stuck in her hair. So because she got a curling iron stuck in her hair, she had to shave her head, and then she got this cute little thing going up here. So her name's Tina. It's not that Tina. But the Tina it is there is no alternative. Tina, there is no alternative. So we must continue doing this food system. Other words, everyone's going to starve and all this stuff is going to happen, So, but why are we doing a food system that is leading to a sixth mass extinction? Why have a food system like that? Why do a food system that contributes to a climate crisis? I feel so sorry for all these people in heat waves right now. Why do a food system that depletes the natural vitality of the soil, pollutes water, and is grounded on total injustice? Some want to believe there's no alternative, but on today's show, we're bringing queerness to the local food system, queerness and kindness to our food system. Very pleased to be joined. Next to me is Forrest Hunt, the Education Director for East Phillips Neighborhood Institute. So, Forrest, we're going to take another call in a minute, but just give us a brief overview, and then the rest of the show we'll have with you. But
so my name is Forrest. I use they, them pronouns. I am non-binary. I am also Two-Spirit, so I am Indigenous. I'm Turtle Mountain Anishinaabe, and I am a food scientist, a botanist. I have my undergraduate from the U of M in agroecology and my master's in plant science with a focus in food systems and education.
I know sometimes I feel like, how do I not know these things? You can get a degree in agroecology from the University of Minnesota?
It's a degree in plant science with a focus in agroecology. Okay. So they basically have like a tract that you're on. And so mine was agroecology because I've always found that food is very important to me.
Now, and our audience probably knows what that word means, but what does agroecology mean?
Agroecology is the ecology of agricultural systems. So basically thinking of a field, an agricultural field, or as a system that we are taking care of, the same as like an ecosystem, essentially. So it's looking at all the different parts, the soil, the insects, the surrounding habitats, everything that plays a role in agriculture. So it's
it's integral or holistic, or what we do to the earth, we do to ourselves, and it's a kind and sane way of thinking about life.
Well, agroecology is more the study of the different types of ways we can do agriculture. So while I did learn about a lot of those really wonderful holistic ways, we did also learn about corn and soybeans, for instance, and how to do corn and soybeans. So it's more of the study of how we farm, essentially, and how we work agricultural systems to eat.
And so, also joining us by phone from his farm is Brian. Brian with LovingMoreFarm.com. Brian, are you able to hear us?
I am. Can you hear
Great.
me?
I can. I know we got a little bit of an echo. I hope they can fix that fast. But just tell us a little bit. You're on the land right now, so tell us a little bit about your farm and yourself.
Sure. We own 10 acres in Waseca County, and it is a regenerative, restorative, mostly organic. We're not certified organic, but we use certified organic feed for all of our birds, and everybody's pastured, and everybody's treated humanely. And we run a youth program, which is, I don't know, it's just like a dream come true with my background in education. I have 2 master's degrees and 2 doctoral degrees, and I feel like coming here is fulfilling that dream and sort of marrying all of those degrees and that set of experience I've had for like 27 years.
That's beautiful. So let's connect the food movement to pride. Is there a connection?
Oh, yes. Well, one of the reasons why I believe that the connection is so important is that we've really defined what success is differently from what the mainstream culture is. In other words, we're more about connecting people and connecting people with ecosystems, helping people. We feed a lot of people who otherwise may not have as much access to food. And we also expand who belongs here, from youth, children. We just had a huge event at our farm last Saturday, and we had almost 300 people here from all ages, and people come and work in our youth program, which is partially grant funded. They also come and volunteer, and then we also embrace diversity as a strength. And so we raise only heritage breeds of livestock, which is, for me, huge. It increases biodiversity and resilience. They're all locally sourced from small family farms. And for us, it's about how can we imagine agricultural endeavors more creatively, as well as more compassionately, and of course, more inclusively.
Yeah, let's talk about the compassion in the food, because compassion and food don't have to be separate.
Absolutely not. One of the things that we do is, while this sounds kind of crude, one of our major mottos is, even our meat birds have only one bad day, because is raised with
It'd be nice if
love.
it was true for humans. I want that. I want to have only one bad day. What do you think?
Yeah,
Boris?
that's right.
One
I
bad
mean, I wish we all were that way, but honestly, and then that's just our adage. And we have animals of all types integrated with one another as it would be in a more natural way rather than monoculture. So we have geese and ducks and turkeys and chickens and quail and probably some I've not even mentioned, and then of course dogs and cats and everybody else. So part of it is we all cultivate belonging and love for one another and respect, no matter what your end game or your end situation is. The most you could hope for is only one bad day.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? And we think about industrial agriculture, and I think a lot of people think there's no alternative to corn and soy. And I'm curious about what your neighbors might think, and what area is your land again?
Well, it's been such a pleasant surprise. I've said this over and over to so many different people in so many situations. We really lucked out, and I'm also a part-time Unitarian Universalist minister, so I have a spiritual connection to all of this. And however you want to say it, I just feel like it's some sort of universal divine intervention that we found the place where we are truly accepted, not only for who we are as queer people and a queer family that's very different from most traditional families, and we're interracial as well, but also because people here locally support us. I think this is unique from what I understand in research. 25 to 30% of our business comes from local people that come from less than 10 miles away, which is indicative, I think, of the support that we have. We've had a couple of incidences with people because they've, found that we're challenging what they're doing, but we're working it out. Relationships change everything, as my professors in feminist culture taught me in seminary. And so as we stay here and cultivate more relationships and we become a more and more integral part of the community, especially working with the youth and families, I think that people really see that this is changing the way that agriculture could be. It's happening right now, right here on our farm.
That's beautiful, and I love that. And I want to give you a chance to say the website, and also talk a little bit more about the youth programming. And then you're listening to Food Freedom Radio. We're live from Twin Cities Pride, and then we're going to talk to Forrest Hunt with the East Phillips Neighborhood Institute. But tell us a little bit more. You've also found youth programming, and why is that important? And what reactions do you get from kids visiting the farm?
Well, for me, it's important because I was a public school teacher and administrator for 27 years, and I never understood how all of that was going to wrap into this and the 2 degrees in theology. But I have been working with youth for so long that I know that our future that begins with youth. And one of the most important things that happened recently is that when June 1st came around, about 6 of our kids came to me and said, "Where is your pride flag?" And I'm like, "What?" I don't know. I didn't think about that. So because the kids requested it, we have an inclusive pride flag flying in front. So I use that as an example to say our hope for the future comes from them. And it's interesting that most of our kids, if not all of them, have a completely more rural background. So coming here and learning about what's going on our farm helps them understand what's going on around them. It teaches them all kinds of skills. It teaches them how to work together in a stressful environment, because animals don't wait. It's a fast-paced environment. But it also helps them understand the ways in which in the future they can work to combat the ways that things have been. In fact, we've got 3 kids that have come to me and said, "You know what, I want to go to school and study agriculture. Can you help me find a place to do this?" So I was really glad
that's beautiful, because we need to get young people in agriculture. But as a pastor, because there's such different hats you wear. Now you're doing the farmer. But here at Pride, there is so much religious stuff, and there are some people that are that believe that the Bible is anti-gay. How would you respond to those people who want to give out free Bibles and that type of stuff?
Oh, well, I mean, that would take a whole show or 3.
You got 30 seconds, Brian. Or you got a minute.
Okay. Well, honestly, the reason why I went to seminary to study theology and the Bible was because I was hurt by the church. And many people in the queer community have left for a really good set of reasons. And people often ask me why I stayed. Well, I went back to seminary and then got 2 doctoral degrees after that master's degree in theology, because I wanted to find out what the Bible really says, which is a whole conversation, in its original languages. So I had to learn Greek and Hebrew, and not the current ones, the ancient ones, and even Aramaic and Latin. And by reading scripture in its original languages as much as you possibly can, and understanding that the context within which scripture was originally written have changed. Well, I should say they're different from our context, and times have changed. So I often will say the people that wrote scripture thought the earth was flat and that the earth was the center of the universe. And that doesn't negate what they say, but it gives a different perspective of how you look at scripture.
We're getting out of time, and I know. So you are at the Dakota County Unitarian Church, and you're at lovingmore.farm is your website. And what is the link for the church if anyone else was interested in that?
It's dakotauu.org.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian. And thank you for calling in from your farm, Loving More Farm. We're going to take a break. You're listening to Food Freedom Radio, and we are live from Pride. Thanks so much to our sponsors, Planned Parenthood, Violet Wine and Spirits, and Amy Ruzick.
Hi, I'm Lauren.
And I'm Alina.
We're the owners of Mastells, locally owned and independent since 1968.
With more than 50 years of knowledge, Mastells is your locally owned wellness destination.
Stop by the store at 1526 St. Clair Avenue in St. Paul. Mastells Health Foods, Minnesota's health and wellness experts.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. Summer is here and Zero Res has the best deal of the summer on tap just for you right now. School's going to be out if it's not out already, and maybe you're having a graduation party at your house or a summer celebration with friends and family. Don't let rising gas prices stop you from having a clean, healthy home. Zero Res is keeping comfort affordable with powerful cleaning at a price families can feel good about. Get things off on the right foot this summer with Zero Res's big summer savings. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $149 plus $599 for a whole system air duct cleaning. Call 9520-RES or go to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
Farmer's Kitchen and Bar brings the Farmer's Harvest to downtown Minneapolis by sourcing as much as possible from local farmers, from bison wild rice meatballs, locally sourced poultry, grass-fed beef, and creamy wild rice soup. The bar features Minnesota-inspired cocktails and local beers. Delicious vegetarian, gluten-free, and dairy-free options are always available. There is a seat at the table for everyone at Farmer's Kitchen and Bar, located next to the Guthrie Theater. Open Wednesday through Sundays, Farmer's Kitchen and Bar, authentic farm to table.
Let's face it, big box corporate brokers are built to serve shareholders, not the consumer, and it's time for a reckoning. At REC, short for the Real Estate Collaborative, we're challenging the status quo. Why pay a percentage of your home's value when you can have ethical, flat dollar commissions? From full service support to DIY options for buyers and sellers, we put you at the center of the transaction. And when we aren't helping you move, we're working toward housing justice for all. Because at the Real Estate Collaborative, we believe that to defeat the systems we don't like, we have to build ones we do. Join the movement at therecolab.com. That's THERE as in real estate, COLLAB.com. Or call 651-412-3765. And we invite you to tune in to Reckoning with Real Estate every Sunday at 11 a.m. on AM 950. Or listen on demand wherever you get your podcasts. At REC, we're radically reimagining real estate. We hope you'll join us.
Welcome back to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Headline, and thrilled to be live at Twin Cities Pride. And thanks so much to our sponsors, Planned Parenthood, Violet Wines and Spirits. And if you haven't gone to Violet Wines and Spirits, it's a cool little wine shop in the heart of Northeast Minneapolis there. You can look them up. They have some special wines you can't find anywhere else. They have a section of queer wines, and they're very cognizant of who owns the products. And so it's a beautiful place. They also have a great wine club. And then we also have Amy Ruzek with Remax Real Estate. Also, I want to thank my sponsors, Farmers Bar and Restaurant, which is right next to the Guthrie. Also, Metro Blooms, and so from rain gardens to butterfly gardens to how do we landscape in a way that lets the water flow through our land and helps pollinators at the same time. They're going to have a terrific event coming up, the Lawns to Legumes Tour. And Mistel's Health Food Store. So love the sponsors. It's about integrating media and editorial. If that makes any sense, hopefully it does. But I'm very pleased right now to be joined by with Forrest Hunt. She's with East Phillips Neighborhood Institute. So welcome.
Hi, yes, yeah.
And again, tell us a little bit about your background.
So I am non-binary. I'm also Two-Spirit, so I am Indigenous, and I am a plant scientist with a love of agroecology and food systems, and I work for the East Phillips Neighborhood Institute. I'm the education director there. We lead monthly workshops that are free to the public, and we also have a youth program that is just starting up, where we are going to be teaching youth of East Phillips and that general area in South Minneapolis about food, where our food comes from, how to identify different plants, and just kind of getting them curious about the world around them.
And speaking of curious, it was so fun. Before the show, we were sitting out and we saw a loon.
Yeah, there's a loon. I had no idea at Loring Park.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I saw some really, I love the nature here. There was also a red-winged blackbird and a mourning dove. And little ducklings all in one spot. I think that's so nice in the middle of the city.
In the middle of the city. And loon has always been an emblem of freedom for me.
Yeah.
And this is named Food Freedom Radio. So Let's talk about East Phillips neighborhood. A long story, but in that you guys got the building, the former roof depot. My gosh, do you want to give the summary story? I mean, and I've done several shows on it, so
I can talk a little bit about it. Yeah. So a little bit of the history is that there used to be an arsenic pesticide plant in the East Phillips neighborhood, which was open in the 1940s, and that pesticide facility, and also there was pesticides, arsenic-based pesticides being stored years after that as well. But it only ran for about 8 years, but that was enough for it to just absolutely decimate the soil and the health of the community there. So East Phillips is over 80% people of color, and it is a historically red line neighborhood, and it's positioned right next to where all these warehouses and industrial sites were, which has everything to do with the city planning and how the city was planned. And so that arsenic contamination was found in the 1990s, and they were digging up the 55 Highway 55 corridor, where they found all this arsenic in the soil, and they did some testing. They found out where it was coming from. It was deemed a Superfund site. It's also called the Arsenic Triangle in East Phillips, and it is it's a very challenging topic for a lot of folks that are from the community, because they had no idea they were being poisoned by the soil and by the air outside, and there are higher rates of asthma and in the community. It's a really hard thing to study, to properly study the health impacts of all of that arsenic contamination over the years. But we have been fighting for a really long time as a neighborhood organization for the Roof Depot site, which is right in the smack dab in the center of that arsenic triangle. And that Roof Depot site was built after that arsenic contamination happened. So if that site was to be torn down, which was the original plans by the city, it would have just gotten all of that arsenic contamination right back into the neighborhood that has already been under served by the city itself. So the community fought for a really long time to get that site in the hands of the community, and that officially this summer we got an amazing bill was signed by the state, awarding us almost $5 million to purchase the site from the city. So we are a neighborhood organization. It's a bunch of grassroots folks. We have our board, and we have about 7 people on staff, and that is it right now. But we have a lot of programming that we've been doing for years. We've been farming in the East Phillips community at different sister sites, because we're not able to farm at the Roof Depot. This year is going to be our first time on the site itself, building the infrastructure for the farm. But yeah, I've been in the community for about 3 years now. Started off as a volunteer, and then I led a couple of workshops, and then they're like, oh, I think we should probably hire this person, because I was almost running the farm at that point.
That's so great. I just want to remember to give a shout out to the people who've worked hard, with so much heart, despite obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, including Representative Karen Clark and Dean DeValis. I mean, there was so many times that this it looked like it was going to close, and people showed up, and there's just a lot of, I don't even want to use the word drama, because there was actually just standing up for this area and for this vision, which is so were you active in that as well?
I was not a part of the original movement. I mean, I'm pretty young. I'm only 27, so I was still in college at that point. But I was in grad school when I found out about the organization. One of my friends from high school was actually working there, Kieran Morris, and he invited me to come help out, volunteer, and I just fell in love with the project and started volunteering multiple times a week and helping Kieran out on the farm as much as I could. And then, yeah.
And so right now, your role is to work with young people. So talk about that.
Yes, yeah. So we have an amazing grant from the Minneapolis Department of Agriculture, which has allowed us to create an after-school and summer school program for the youth of East Phillips. And these programs are completely free for the kids.
That's amazing. Completely free. That is great. I mean, I actually have my best friend from high school here. I can, Caitlin, but it just made me look, because I remember when I was a teenager, I got in some free programs, and then years later, like 15 years later, I ran into one of the teachers.
Oh wow!
And then I was like trying to pitch to that person, and then I slept on it some in the morning. It's like, you were my teacher. And it was like, if I didn't have that one moment with those teachings, I wouldn't have had that moment with that, or that. I may not have been here right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's those moments that affect our lives. And these young people, especially screen-fed young people,
it's important to get them outside for sure. I mean, all the kids that we have in the program are kids who have grown up in the city. And I don't know if you know anything like East Phillips or the Phillips area, there is not a lot of green space. And that is by design because it was a historically redline neighborhood. And if you look at a map that has an overlay of the neighborhoods in Minneapolis that were historically redlined, and if you don't know what that is,
let's talk about it. 'Cause I've looked at those red line maps.
Yeah.
And they give you a shield.
Yeah, so the redlining was an official, it was official maps created by the U.S. government. And there is one for every single city or metro area. And it is rating every neighborhood based on the inhabitants. And a majority of the time, they are looking at the percentage of the inhabitants that are people of color, the percentage of the inhabitants that were immigrants, the percentage of the inhabitants that were Jewish or Catholic, and the percentage of the inhabitants that were on welfare or any form of government assistance programs. And so historically redline neighborhoods are traditionally, at least back in the day, they had overwhelmingly a large percentage of people of color and immigrants, Jewish populations. And that because of those ratings, it basically meant that people of color were unable to get mortgages in any other neighborhood other than these redline neighborhoods. So it was a formal governmental form of segregation. And it is something that still is, it's still in effect today.
It is. I mean, I know from personal one. So Northeast Minneapolis is far whiter than North Minneapolis.
It
And
is,
that's
yes.
because of those old redlining, right?
Yes, but it really depends on where in Northeast. You know, I grew up in Northeast Minneapolis.
Oh,
I
me
d-
too.
yeah. But you know, if you go further towards the industrial part of Northeast Minneapolis, you will find that it is more people of color and more low-income housing, and that is because those areas were redlined or orange lined in a lot of instances in Northeast Minneapolis, and then North Minneapolis was almost entirely redlined. Majority along the river, especially where there was industrial zoning. So that industrial zoning was put in place specifically because the neighborhoods around them were redlined. And there is a direct overlap and direct correlation between food access in those redline neighborhoods because of government disinvestment. It's really the city just absolutely just abandoning these neighborhoods because they weren't full of funders. They weren't full of people that were like able to speak up, you know. And if you look at neighborhoods that are closer to like the lakes systems in Minneapolis, those systems were considered exceptional in these traditional redlining maps. There's all of this green space. There are all of these beautiful parkways and access to things like fruit trees that are just growing in these public spaces. And in historically redlined neighborhoods, the parks are just green squares of empty field, very little shade. And it disconnects these folks growing up in these redline neighborhoods from nature. And it disconnects them from accessing food as well, because there is a direct correlation between food deserts, modern food deserts, and where historically redlined neighborhoods were located. It is astonishing to look at a map and to see where these food deserts are and having it be exactly overlaid to where these redline maps were laid out back in the 1940s.
In our yard right now, we're enjoying so many fresh fruits. So the mulberries and blueberries and red currants, just a lot of fruits. And we were talking about, what we do in one moment really affects so much down decades down.
It does, yeah.
And so that's what this is about. And so the other thing about these traditional redline areas right here, right now in the Twin Cities, that's where the kids are.
That's where a lot of kids are, yeah, for sure. And there are a lot of kids in those neighborhoods that they just don't know where their food is coming from. I work in East Phillips with the children, and I have gone up to a kid and tried, in a specific instance that I'm thinking of, it was at a maple boiling, and there was a child there who lived in East Phillips, and I was telling him about maple sap, where the maple comes from, and he was like, "What's a maple tree?" I'm like, "Come on, you know what a maple tree looks like." And I showed him like a maple leaf. I was like, "You've seen this before, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, I have." And I was like, "So this is a maple tree." And then I showed him like a couple of leaves in a row. And I was like, "Point out the maple leaf." And he pointed to it. And I was like, "Point out the oak leaf." And he pointed to it. So these kids have this stuff. They know, right? But at the same time, they're not given a lot of opportunity to really test or work this knowledge. So in my education programs, I really like to focus on experiential learning and active learning. So that really helps kids who learn in different ways really take in that curriculum, and while also having real life examples and being able to directly apply it to what they are seeing in front of them, because that is one of the best ways that all people, not just kids, learn. It's really important to incorporate all different types of lessons, allowing kids times to reflect, allowing kids to get their hands in the dirt and actually experience the outdoors. And what I really focus on is curiosity, is instilling in kids that curiosity about the world around them, because some kids don't have that.
They don't have that. And there's so many people that are experiencing so much stress if the mother's working 1 or 2 jobs and all of what's going on, and then the kids are doing this, and then they're seeing so many screens. And before we talk to you, you actually do screens. You have some advice for siblings on screens.
Yes, I do have. I have 3 little brothers. They are 8 years old, 11 years old, and 13, just going on 14 years old. And when they are with me, I really try to be strict about screens, not letting them have their phones in the car. I do let them have device time and stuff like that, but they listen to me, and they look up to me a lot, which I think is wonderful. Having little kids look up to you is one of the best feelings in the world. And it's something I experience as an older sibling. It's something I've experienced as a teacher. And it really does not get better than that. And like, taking care of the next generation is really how we are going to change the world. You have to get that curiosity and that knowledge about nature and the food system and the world around them when they're young. And that's how we can grow the next generation of food scientists, agriculturalists, the people that might be able to solve this climate crisis that we are experiencing. Because I haven't seen a lot of people right now tackling it as much as they should be. So
right, and there's so much. I mean, it's there's a lot of what you just unpacked. But when life is so darn complex, how we find these little moments of joy, and when you actually, I could say goosebumps when you said the joy that you get just when you're actually interacting with the kid. And let's lift that up. I mean, do you crave cold toilets or flying to Mars?
What?
Well, I mean, gold toilets. And there's some guy that has a lot of power or whatever in this world, and he's like gold toilets and
yes,
putting a lot of resources in that. I mean, does that like make your heart tick?
It's nothing that's nothing that I've ever
Me neither.
wanted.
I mean, I know it. I just want to flush that system, right?
I know. I think it's because I grew up in a low income household. I grew up food insecure. And when you grow up in that environment, all you want is just stability. And in a lot of instances, it inspires people to want to instill change. And so the kids that I service in the neighborhood, they are also living in food insecure households, low income households. And all they need is an opportunity to really harness that passion and that curiosity about the world around them.
A part of being alive.
Exactly.
Being alive.
Yeah.
I mean, and so that's what Pride is about. Twin Cities Pride. We are live from Pride. That's awesome. And I want to thank our sponsors: Planned Parenthood, Violet Wines and Spirits, Amy Ruzek's No Place Like Home, and also AM 950's our Food Freedom Radio sponsors: Farmers Bar and Kitchen, Metro Blooms, and Mastel's Health Food. So thank you for listening to Food Freedom Radio.
Hi, I'm Lauren.
And I'm Alina.
We're the owners of Mastel's, locally owned and independent since 1968.
With more than 50 years of knowledge, Mastel's is your locally owned wellness destination.
Stop by the store at 1526 St. Clair Avenue in St. Paul. Mastel's Health Foods, Minnesota's health and wellness experts.
I have the perfect weekend getaway for you. Take the short drive to Winona and see the 2 productions of the Great River Shakespeare Festival in their new home in the heart of downtown. Great River specializes in making Shakespeare fun and relevant to modern audiences. See A Midsummer Night's Dream and Pericles. Spend the night in the brand new luxurious Hotel 44 North, right on the Mississippi River. It will be the best weekend of your summer, June 24th to July 26th. Visit grsf.org.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces is having their annual maintenance service special. Every stove, insert, and fireplace needs regular maintenance. Woodland goes over the critical components that control your fire to ensure safe and efficient operation. Get it done now and save $40, and you'll be ready to fire up the next cool night.
Hi, I'm Adam Ostrowski, co-owner and head of service at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. We have the equipment and the know-how to supply and maintain stoves and fireplaces. Contact us by phone at 612-338-6606 or request service online at woodlandstoves.com and take advantage of our spring service and maintenance special.
This is a great time of year to visit the store. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces is located just off of I-94 and Riverside Avenue and East Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis. Open weekdays 9:30 to 5:30 and 9:30 to 4 on Saturdays. They invite you to visit and see the Twin Cities' most diverse selection of wood, gas, and electric stoves and fireplaces.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Violet Wine and Spirits celebrates Pride Month and is excited to be an AM 950 sponsor at Twin Cities Pride. For Violet, LGBTQ means family, creating community, welcoming into a safe place to be where all are celebrated. We have a rainbow of wine and spirits and welcome a rainbow of our community. Visit Violet at 2435 Marshall Street, Northeast Minneapolis. Join in the journey of heart, warmth, and delicious wine and spirits. And learn more at violetwinempls.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Today, sunshine with a high of 83, then tonight, cloudy with a low of 65. Farmer's Kitchen and Bar connects the local harvest directly to downtown Minneapolis. They prioritize sourcing as many ingredients as possible from local farmers. Check them out on South 2nd Street next to the Guthrie Theater, open Wednesday through Sunday. Visit farmerskitchenandbar.com. ATNF AM 950, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Welcome back to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Headland, live from Twin Cities Pride. This is an awesome event. It was so meaningful for me to be driving and listening. I love listening to the Reckoning with Real Estate because she was saying things like we are all entitled to housing. And how do we have a system that works? Because the housing system has so many problems, just as the food system does. And with me right now is Forrest Hunt. She's the education director with East Phillips Neighborhood Institute. And Forrest, tell us again about your background, just so in case someone's driving, they're just picking up right now.
Yeah. So I'm Forrest. I am non-binary. I use they, them pronouns. I am also two-spirit, so I am Turtle Mountain Anishinaabe. I have an undergraduate degree in agroecology and a master's in plant science with a focus in education. And I am the education director at the East Phillips Neighborhood Institute here in Minneapolis.
Wonderful. So connect the local food movement to Pride. Is there a connection?
It is a very easy connection, and that is that every queer person I know is passionate about the food system, and it
is actually quite interesting. Yes, I mean, I know I have this new person in my life, but yeah, it's like, oh, we can't eat there because it's GMO. It's like, but we're traveling. What are we gonna do?
Yeah, we have a lot of volunteer events. We have 2 farm sites right now in the East Phillips neighborhood. And when we have our volunteer events, I would say about over 50% of the volunteers that we have are queer folks, usually young people in college. And on staff at our organization, we are over half queer. So it is a very easy connection to make in the food system, in the food justice fight that I see in East Phillips, in Minneapolis in general. Almost all of the people that are the most passionate are queer. And I don't know why that is. I would say it's probably because as queer people, we have an understanding and a drive for community. And when you have a community that you're passionate about, you want them to be happy and healthy and alive.
And if you find in yourself enough trust of yourself and freedom inside yourself to be yourself, then you're willing to stand up for those values that you know to be true.
Exactly. Yeah. And I see that every day in Minneapolis. And St. Paul. Let's not forget St. Paul. But it is pretty beautiful. The queer community here is passionate about volunteering, about community action, taking care of the people around them, and that even if they don't agree with who they are, like there are people out there who are homophobic and angry about it, but the power of the queer community is that we will still take care of those people regardless, and that is because it's sort of like it's taking the higher ground. We are caring and compassionate and loving, and those who are against us are the exact opposite. And we will continue to be caring and passionate and loving even in the face of adversity.
Well, and isn't that the lesson of Martin Luther King and a lot of people throughout time? I mean, so you guys do a lot of free. Everything you do is free?
Everything we do is free. So all of our community workshops, I'm teaching like college level education that you really don't get outside of a university, and those are usually for community members, and they're all free. It's all free. So all the food that we grow, we give directly to community kitchens, or we give directly to produce distributions through different food shelves, and that is all free, or we give directly to community members. And our education program that we have starting up is also completely free for students. And that is because we are funded by a variety of grants, as well as amazing donors that, make what we do possible.
And do you want to give anyone a shout out? Because
we have too many donors to name.
Right.
It's usually personal people that are very passionate about the project.
I think that those who want to give. I think that's our natural selves. I mean, we've been lied to. I think there's a lie that humans are jerks, and we're all like, whoever gets the first gold toilet is like the best person ever. And the gold toilet is a joke of a guy who happens to be president of the United States right now, but which we all wish we could flush. But there is something about a community that is unity, love, acceptance, pride, and respect.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's also just like having empathy I think that's kind of the driving point, is if you have enough self-reflection to understand who you are as a person, you have enough empathy and self-reflection to put yourselves in the shoes of others. And those are the people that are suffering, people who are unable to eat, people who are unable to, have health care, take care of their children. There are so many, like the economy is truly in shambles right now. And food is survival at this point. And I think I've seen in the queer community that we care about giving back, about giving to those who do not have anything, because we have the empathy to put ourselves there, or we have experienced food insecurity ourselves.
And so I started the show off because I just find this crazy with our dominant system right now. California is cutting over 420,000 peach trees. And those peach trees could be feeding us for decades. But it's something with the system. So the canning factory closed, they didn't have workers. So so we can't compete economically with that. And so one idea, I mean, how do we, and so I love the long-term vision of East Phillips, the East Phillips Indoor Farm. And you want to talk a little bit about the long-term vision? I know it's not open yet, but I know there's.
Yeah, so we are planning on creating a community hub, essentially. The zoning for the property is multi-use, so there will be production involved. So that will mean indoor hydroponics or aquaponics. And there will also be restaurants, community spaces, community kitchen. It's our dreams for what are going to happen have yet to come to pass, because it has been a really long fight for the Roof Depot itself. But for this summer, for the very first time, we are actually building the farm infrastructure on the parking lot of the Roof Depot, which is huge. And the question I get asked the most, I would say, is why are you farming on contaminated land,
Mhm.
right? And the answer I give is we are using our brains.
So
yeah,
that's novel. I don't know. Using your brains, yeah, because
I know. Yeah. So I mentioned earlier, so the site that we are farming on has intense arsenic contamination in the soil. But we are turning it into a farm. And the way that we are doing that is through a type of raised beds called hugelkultur. So hugelkultur is a Scandinavian method of raised beds that doesn't actually have a structure around it. So that wooden structure that you usually picture when you're thinking of a raised bed, it is instead a mounded system with wood in the middle and then like compost leaves, and it biodegrades with time. And on the Roof Depot site, we will be having plastic at the base so that we have no root penetration down into that contaminated soil. So everything we grow will be in safe, clean soil, compost that we, that is very healthy. And one of the great things about the hugelkultur method, it uses these massive logs, right, as the structure. Picture like a pyramid, right?
Mm-hmm.
The very center of that pyramid are these big logs that are kind of giving it that shape. And those logs, as they decompose, they start to act like a sponge. So as water comes down in an excess rain event, those logs will take in all that extra water. And then when the plants need them, it'll let that water out slowly. So it is a really great system that's resistant to water shortages or droughts. Drought resistance is really important in this day and age. This summer we've not been really experiencing that, but in past summers it's been horrible. We've been unable to grow things.
Well, and this whole idea of having resilience, I mean, in areas where there's not enough to eat, and also the food that most people eat is not really healthy.
That is,
especially kids, right? They're not getting
yes,
good
yeah.
food.
I mean, I think it's all about food access. There are the main issue with people who eat mostly processed foods is that they don't have access or understanding of healthy food. And I'm not here to say that all processed food is unhealthy.
Right.
There is a lot of fear mongering when it comes to chemicals. I'm saying that in parentheses in our food. My master's degree was.
I did see you eat a corn dog. So.
My master's degree is in biochemistry, and part of being like understanding biochemistry is understanding that the chemicals that we use in our food is oftentimes created by plants, by living organisms, and I don't 100% trust our modern day FDA, but an FDA of 5 years ago, they do approve things that like is of human consumption levels. There are chemicals that we eat every day that you don't think of as chemicals, right? Think of a lemon, right? All of those, a lemon can be broken down into hundreds of different biochemicals that you don't know the names of, that look scary and have all these numbers and hyphens and big words that you can't pronounce, but it's still a lemon, right? So a lot of the food that we eat, I think it's important to think of healthy food, right? To think of healthy food that is good for our bodies, but it's also really important to take everything with a grain of salt and really trust the science. I know that's hard right now to trust the science.
But it's also hard to trust each other. But I think one of the revolutionary acts, because I think people here at Pride, we trust each other.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a trusting place.
Yeah. And
there's power in trust, isn't there?
There is power in trust. And there are so many food scientists out there that will tell you that everything is about moderation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can eat a Twinkie once a day for the rest of your life and you will be fine. If you eat 50 Twinkies in one day, you will not be fine. If you eat 50 Twinkies every day for the rest of your life, you will really not be fine. So it's all about the dosage, right? And not the actual thing that you are consuming. Because like water in excess is toxic.
Right.
Salt in excess is toxic.
Yes.
It's really important to think about that moderation. and I am not a food scientist, but I come from a family of food scientists. Both of my grandparents on my mother's side were food scientists with the USDA for years, testing different vitamins that we need in our bodies and stuff like that. So I come from a family that has an understanding and a love of science, while also, trusting.
And then you're indigenous, and
Yes.
so, but also seeing the
That's
plants
the other side
as
of the family.
well, that's the other side. Oh, that's the other side of the family. But seeing the plants and the trees as beings rather than commodifications. And like you were
Yes.
commenting on how cute Mia is with her. Oh, look at that dog!
There's
oh,
so
that's
many
so
cute dogs right now.
Oh, that dog is too cute. I mean, that's a Dalmatian with all sorts of cool colors on them. But these, with the dogs, we kind of understand that they're not just commodities, and it's the
Yes.
same with their food, right? It's
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of indigenous beliefs when it comes to the animals around us and food, and one of them is to think of everything as your relative. The bees buzzing, the birds in the trees themselves, the plants underneath your feet, they are all our relatives. And so when we harvest, we ask before we harvest, and we give offerings before we harvest. And that is a really important part of indigenous belief, is that compassion for everything, not just other humans, everything around us. And I like to incorporate indigenous land stewardship ideologies when it comes to farming and when it comes to taking care of our food systems and the world around us.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, I want to. We only have 2 minutes left. You're listening to Food Freedom Radio live from Twin Cities Pride. I'm very thankful for our sponsors: Planned Parenthood, Violet Wines and Spirits, Amy Ruzek with No Place Like Home Remax Results, also Metro Blooms and Farmers Bar and Kitchen, and Mastel's Health Food. So because let's build a community together. Let's raise up a different economic system, one based on belonging and knowing our place in the natural world is limitless. I mean, when I say the tree or the plants are alive, does that make me smaller than them?
I mean, definitely younger, right? So many of these trees, they are ancient.
Oh, and I was listening to this great show with Merlin. It was the author of the book Entangled Universe, and but he was talking about the mycelium kingdom underneath, and they've gone to the astronomy, and the same patterns are living. So the phrase "as below, so above" might really carry some deep wisdom.
Yes, yeah. I could talk for probably another hour about mycology and the importance of fungi, especially in food systems. Actually, you don't usually think about them as being important, but they are always in the soil.
They're always and they're talking and they're supporting each other, and they work in pro-social, in synergetic ways. They lift each other up.
We would not have the food that we eat, if it weren't for the fungi kingdom.
The fungi kingdom. Thank you, fungi kingdom. So Forrest Hunt, Education Director with East Phillips Neighborhood Institute, and that's epnfarm.org. And I also want to thank Loving More Farms for joining us by phone. And thank you for listening to Food Freedom Radio.
Hi, it's Matt McNeil. Listen to the Matt McNeil Show from